afternoon, LinkedIn family, and to my Facebook friends, as well as to people who are subscribing to YouTube. I'm getting more YouTube subscribers, which is awesome. I'm very excited for this show today. I've been noticeably absent from LinkedIn. I've been on a bit of sabbatical, taking care of just some work stuff and getting things going, which is always fun. And hopefully, I'm going to start getting back into the groove of LinkedIn. Kicking it off with this LinkedIn Live with my pal, Dr. Irene Cop. Dr. Irene is participating in this amazing seminar. I think it's this weekend, right?
Yes, tomorrow.
Retrain Your Brain Boot Camp tomorrow. So,
no, this one's called Brain Reboot 2020.
Brain Reboot. I knew it was that. I was just testing you.
You made me think there for a second.
Yeah. Well, you're out in Greece where it's nice and warm, and I'm here in Chicago where it's below zero, and even the sun is freezing. So, we'll cut me some slack.
I will.
Anyway, but she's having this reboot seminar on Saturday with some really amazing people that we're going to begin to introduce to you now, and we're just going to give you a little taste of what's going on. But why don't you start us off, Dr. Irene, by explaining a little bit what this is all about?
Oh, I would love to, Bob, and welcome everyone that is watching and listening to either this or the recording. So what happened was that late November, I was down at a healthcare conference, and there was world-class mastermind experts, and a few of us somehow found each other and were sitting and going, what do you do? And what do you do? And what do you do? And what we realized is that we all specialized in the brain in some way, shape, or form, or neurology, in other words, and the common denominator was the brain, the mind. And so we were just like, we really should just have some fun, right? Because we love to collaborate and provide massive value too by helping people. Like, we're talking about the stress of the last couple of years, for instance, and how that has impacted so many people. Like, across the world is under chronic stress. Burnout is through the roof, and the whole part of it. Okay, so what can we do to help people now? How can we give actionable tools right here, right now?
So, all right. So we lost Dr. I knew that was going to happen. So, Dr. Irene, you're blocking in and out. So here I'm going to ask you to do a favor. When we were on a Zoom call earlier today, you were outside and you had great reception. Why don't you go out to your rooftop, okay? And while you're going out to your rooftop, I'm serious. It's beautiful out there, and you can get.
Well, it's also dark out there right now. But if you want me to, I will.
It's nighttime. You don't have any outside lights?
A few, but I can do that. You bring everyone else.
Okay.
On, and I will mute my video. Is that what the word? And
I'm just gonna take you off until I see you again. All right. So go outside. Maybe have Brandon hold a flashlight.
All right. Take care.
All right. So now I'm gonna bring in these esteemed colleagues in one at a time, just to make it easier. We're gonna start with Dr. Stein because it's in alphabetical order. Hi, Dr. Stein. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine.
Why don't you do me a favor? Tell us a little bit about yourself and what your association with the group is, because Dr. Irene was cutting out a little bit being in Greece.
Yes, unfortunately, what she was saying, I was able to understand her, but I'm sure I knew exactly what she was going to say.
Yeah.
So we are all healthcare providers, and we were at a conference, and we were just getting to know each other, and we realized that we all do something, to help people with their brains. And I'm a functional medicine psychiatrist, board certified psychiatrist, but I also do functional medicine. And my shtick is basically, finding root causes and reversing root causes of depression and anxiety. And so everyone that was sitting in the circle happened to be doing something with the brain. You'll meet Dr. Barrett, who's a neurologist, and she treats people with migraines and headaches. And There's Dr. Titus Chewy, who is a functional neurologist. And you'll have them, each of us, introduce ourselves and let everyone know what we are all doing. But I basically am located in Rhode Island, and I have a private practice there called Functional Mind, and I offer an online boot camp to help people find and reverse the root causes of depression so that they would not or do not need to rely on unnecessary medications. So
Awesome.
yeah,
That's amazing.
Yeah, I really love my work, and it's basically offering an option to help people who have not been able to tolerate medications. Medications are life-saving, but sometimes people can't tolerate them, or they have lots of side effects, or they don't work. And so this is another option. It's an alternative way of approaching, as opposed to suppressing medications. We're looking for root causes and reversing them.
Yeah, awesome. Well, since you mentioned Dr. Barrett, let's bring her into the equation. Hi, Dr. Barrett.
Hi, nice to see you all
so
today.
why don't we get you to tell us a little bit about yourself and your association with the group?
Yeah, sure. So I am a conventionally trained neurologist, did my neurology residency at Stanford. So I started off my career very much steeped in conventional medicine. And there just came a point when I started to realize there was so much more I could do to help people heal. Medications have their place, but they're not really healing the brain. And as we have learned more and more about functional and integrative medicine, so many more tools have become available to us. So that's really what I'm all about, helping people heal their brain in order to reduce their migraine pain.
Oh, very cool. Okay. As a guy with MS, I have a neurologist that I see on a regular basis, and have been on the same medication for a long time at this point. That it's done really well, and I'm very blessed that I'm functioning as well as I can. But just as a little bit of backstory, I had symptoms that even the medication wasn't helping. And it was through Dr. Irene's help that she was able to alleviate some of my my symptoms, which is the reason why I'm such an acolyte for her and anything that she's working on. So a little background on that. So it's interesting that you're now a neurologist too. So I want to bring in Dr. Yarnell next. Did I say that right, Dr.
Hi,
Yarnell?
Bob.
Is it Yarnell?
I have a doctorate, but the state of Colorado has told me I'm not allowed to call myself a doctor. So I'm a traditional naturopath.
Wait.
But Yarnell is correct. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to call you doctor, because if you have a doctorate, you're a doctor. I don't care what Colorado says.
Okay. Okay. Let's just have the record show this wasn't me.
Okay. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're up to and how you fit into the group?
So I am a traditional naturopath, and my focus is on MS and other autoimmune issues. And I run a nationwide clinic. It's all virtual. I'm based in Colorado, but nobody ever sees me in person. And I take MS and other autoimmune sufferers through a natural therapies designed to reduce and alleviate symptoms of autoimmunity and inflammation.
Very cool. Okay, excellent. I'm going to have some questions for you then, for sure.
Yes,
Dr.
we should
Irene
definitely talk, because I have MS too.
Oh, you do? Okay. All right. Yeah,
I
we'll
do.
definitely have to talk. We'll have more questions here. Dr. Irene is back, so I'm gonna bring her in real quick, so everybody can be jealous that she's in nice warm weather. and now we're gonna introduce Dr. Cadron. I probably butchered your name, so please make sure you repeat myself. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing within the group.
Great. And that was actually great pronunciation. It's Cadron in French, but Cadron. So I think you did a terrific job.
All right, I tried.
Yeah. So I'm the nutrition coach, and I actually specialize in weight loss. So what was interesting is the way that I entered into this group was the big impact that changing nutrition has on the brain. It's pretty profound. So in my courses, which we also run online, even though we're addressing health from the perspective of weight loss, we're doing it through a very plant-forward, powerful nutrition program that has a big impact on the brain. So what we found is that some of the common complaints that people start with, especially brain fog, forgetting why they've entered the room, what am I in here for? And things that Dr. Achino was talking about, depression, moodiness, anxiety, so many of those things can resolve through proper nutrition, and starting with that as the foundation for a better brain. So that's the topic that I'll be bringing in on Saturday. And what I think is really, really interesting about this field is the more that I've researched the brain, the more that our clients have been worried about the dementia and decline that they see in their parents and in their family history, the more we see that the brain is really responsive to the metabolic issues of the body, and that dementia is a type of diabetes. Some people would say like a type 3 diabetes of the brain. So the more that we focus on the foundations of health that help us to avoid other metabolic diseases like type 2 diabetes or heart disease, the better the brain is. So I'm really excited about that it's not a black hole, that like, I can eat well for my heart, or I can eat well to keep my blood sugar level, but that dementia, that's just in my family. Realizing that we have so much control over it.
Yeah, that's incredible. Guys, this is an amazing lineup. I really, I'm just a guy with a bachelor's degree in English and literature, so I feel very, very unworthy to be here right now. What you guys are putting together, or what you've put together, just sounds really amazing. And Dr. Irene, now that you're back and you've got an open signal a little bit, why don't you tell us a little bit about what's going to be happening on Saturday?
Would love to. Can everyone hear me now?
Yeah. Very nicely.
Awesome. If I cut out, somebody else can answer the question. So tomorrow, starting at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific, or 7 p.m. Central Eastern Europe time, in my case, we are doing a half-day mini summit called Brain Reboot 2022. And so each of us, including Dr. Titus Chu, who I think you mentioned is a specialist, world-class specialist in post-concussive syndrome and neurology. And so he'll be with us tomorrow. He'll be like the token guy. No, seriously.
Like I am right now, right?
Yeah. But Bob, you're just so amazing. And we are, yes, Dr. Dan, awesome lineup. And so we're each going to be speaking for about half an hour, taking questions at the end, so be sure to join us live, and from there we are so it'll go till what, 3 o'clock Eastern, guys?
Yeah.
3 o'clock Eastern, or 10 p.m. Central European time, and we're just going to have an amazing time. And it's all about actionable tools, like what can you do right now. So it's going to be very, very concrete. Let's get things started for you, because with the chronic stress of the last couple years, not to mention, that being humans, we are allowed to have more than one thing going wrong with us, that so there's so many other conditions that can be impacting the brain, like MS. And then there's also like the chicken and the egg thing, right, that we're going to talk about, that how stress impacts MS, and how MS impacts this, and how the food, right, impacts the brain. And it's so beautiful how it's all going to weave together.
And best of all, this is all free, right? You're not charging for this. This is open to anyone. If you go to my last post, and the post for this event, there's a link, and then I'll also put a link in the comments after we're done today, so you'll be able to get to sign up and join in. Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be amazing. So Dr. Stein, my big question is, you're dealing with, the depression part of it, and from the aspect of whole health, it sounds like, right? In today's society, right, in today's pandemic world, we're not even post or even pre-pandemic at this point. We're smack dab in the middle of it. I know from the people that I deal with on a daily basis how stressed they are over this, because you don't know from one day to the next if you're going to be able to travel, if you're going to be able to go outside. Kids aren't able to go to school here in Chicago, at least. Schools are shut down again, right? and that has a big impact. How do you suggest people deal with something like that?
Well, I think the reason it's a big impact is because there's a lack of consistency, and so consistency and expectation of knowing what to expect really helps to settle people down. And so when that changes up again and again and again and again, it's almost like your whole world is turned upside down. But that consistency or lack of consistency comes on the outside of us. So, but there's things that we do consistently every day. We do brush our teeth every day. We do eat our meals every day. You can focus, or one can focus on your daily habits to ground yourself into what you do know, what is available to you, what you do have, and understanding that there's consistency from day to day in your personal life. Yes, there's things that aren't consistent, but if you focus on the things that are consistent and what you do have and who you are connected to, that'll make a big difference. It's almost like saying, focus on the glass half full as opposed to the glass half empty. And if it means turning off the media, if it means, turning off the TVs and not connecting to that negativity, then do it. If you're waking up with nightmares or because of the pandemic or because of all of these issues, it is sort of checking in with yourself and saying, where is your attention? And then directing your attention to, like I said, what you do have, your day-to-day habits that that do provide stability in your day-to-day life, and connecting with people that are positive and supportive is a really good start, and noticing your thoughts and redirecting them.
Yeah, amazing. That's cool. So you're getting actionable stuff already. Dr. Barrett, I kind of want to pose the same question to you, because from the brain aspect, right? What are some of the things that we could be doing to kind of feed ourselves to be helping us through these types of stressful situations, right? Because the stress of everyday life through a pandemic can really impact your brain. I know it's impacted my MS as an example.
Absolutely. Yeah. And honestly, the pandemic really gives us a unique opportunity to focus on healing, right? I mean, we've got this big health threat out there that we all have to think about. And so I think it's top of mind for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And you can really use this extra time and space and bandwidth to focus on healing. And one of the areas that I find to be helpful for people with headaches that is not emphasized very much in conventional medicine is the whole idea of detoxing your body. So whether we are trying to heal from an infection, or if we are trying to just remove all the accumulated toxins from our bodies of, decades of living in the world that we live in, there's some very concrete strategies that we can use to help our bodies do that. We have learned all of the ways that our body does this all by itself. Whether it's through simple things that we might have thought about before, like things like sweating. Okay. We all know that sweat eliminates toxins from our bodies. And so maybe we have a little bit more time to incorporate some more exercise as a way to help our body eliminate some of those toxins. Our body's got half a dozen other ways that it eliminates toxins too. And I think it's a fantastic time to really dig in, start to understand the way our body's trying to do this on its own, and develop some habits like brushing your teeth every day. Achina, I loved how you gave that example, but let's layer in some other new habits that help our body detox every single day. Let's use this new information that we've learned, in the past 10, 15, 20 years and the sciences, the advances in all the different types of healing sciences. Let's really put that into action and start putting some habits in place to help our bodies detox. We all need more of that.
Yeah.
So that's really going to be the focus of what I'm talking about tomorrow. There are a couple things in particular that are really helpful for the brain.
Mm-hmm.
That I just don't feel like there has been much attention paid to these things that we can do that are so simple and help us so much. So yeah, I would say detox.
So I think switching to a single barrel bourbon is not really detoxing, is it though?
I love it.
I'm trying to use that as my excuse. It's a little more expensive, so I got to say it's for detoxing purposes, right?
Well, I mean, there are things like that available. So, for example, there are companies that market, low preservative, low toxin, low sulfite, low alcohol wines. And, it's not wrong to love a glass of wine with your dinner, but maybe we switch it up a little bit and switch to something that isn't going to put as many toxins into our bodies, So there are easy ways that we can just do some simple substitutions, not have to radically change our life around and go live in the middle of nowhere with, no Wi-Fi and hunt our own food. I mean, we don't have to take it to that extreme. We can sub out some of the habits that we like for things that are going to help us detox better. So
yeah, that's amazing, and it's really great advice. I know myself, thanks to Dr. Irene, I've incorporated a lot more water into my diet. As a guy, it's either coffee or a pop or bourbon in between, and maybe a glass of water at night. So now I've gotten myself into the habit of between coffees, but it's just water. So that's helping out a lot, and I find that I'm losing a little bit of weight too. So that's actually pretty good.
Can't argue with that, right?
Yeah. Okay. So in the interest of being totally legal for Colorado, this is calling Elizabeth Dr. Yarnell. She is not professing to be a doctor in Colorado, even though she should be. So
Exactly.
Okay. So Bob calling Dr. Yarnell from a holistic point of view, right? What are some of the things that you're going to be talking about and suggesting, or maybe even some tidbits that you can give out to help out today?
So, Bob, my focus is on inflammation. And even though I'm a specialist in MS and autoimmunity, really I believe that inflammation is at the root of most, if not all, symptoms. And so I work with people and help design dietary therapies that reduce inflammation in their body. So we'll be talking about some of the basic things that cause inflammation in a lot of people. That's very common. So that could be additives and preservatives. And you guys were all on the right track and talking about, well, let's do low preservative wines or single barrel bourbon. But a lot of our a lot of our packaged foods in our country are just full of toxins. And there are toxins everywhere in our daily lives, from our cosmetics to our laundry detergents to our dishwashing detergents. All of these things can add to our burden, our toxic load in our bodies. And when our toxic load gets too high, then we tip over into autoimmunity. Yeah. So that's really what I'm going to be talking about a lot tomorrow on the Brain Reboot 2022. And people can go directly to that link, brainreboot2022.com, if they want to go ahead and register while they're listening to us now as well.
That's awesome. Good idea.
I believe that inflammation is at the cause of it. So another thing that I'll be talking about is hidden parasitic infection, which is not often talked about in our world. We like to think we're very hygienic and we're a developed country, but you know what? Parasites are everywhere. The CDC estimates 7 out of 10 adults are carrying around a load of parasites. And the more and the longer I'm in practice, the more I believe that hidden parasitic infection is at the root of so many chronic conditions.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that too.
So one of the questions I have, and this is for everybody, and I haven't forgotten about you yet, Dr. Cauldron. You're definitely next, and I'm going to save Dr. Irene for last because she's my favorite.
She's your most familiar.
Yeah. There you go. When you talk about the packaged goods, right? And I think this relates to, and I'm pointing to you guys like people can see me pointing, but I think this relates to both of you guys that are involved in nutritional type of wellness, right? That seems to be your focus. A lot of people can't afford goods that are not packaged goods, right? I mean, if you go into like the city of Chicago, for example, right? You go into any one of the bodegas or any one of the grocery stores, unless you're going to go to a Whole Foods, which most people here call Whole Paycheck instead, they can't afford to really buy the non-GMO, organic, less preservative kind of stuff. They're almost forced into buying the packaged goods that cost less because it fits within their budget, right? What do you suggest for people who are kind of caught in that conundrum?
I love that question because actually, let me tilt my camera here so you can see my cookbook in the background. That's all about cooking with whole foods, because actually whole foods are cheaper than packaged foods. If you buy a ground beef, or say, for example, as opposed to a complete burger, you're going to get more meat for your dollar just by buying the burger and cooking, or the beef and cooking it yourself. So really, that's what I focus on a lot, is how do you bring preparing food into your world again in an easy way that doesn't make you spend all day in your kitchen.
So that's a great point. So we're going to have to make sure we get a link for that book going. So Dr. Cadron?
It's good. Yeah.
That works. Okay. I guess kind of the same question goes to you, because, you're a wellness doctor. You're an expert in that. What are some of the things that you're going to be talking about Saturday?
Yeah, there were a couple of things I just wanted to address really quickly relative to the question of price, and then also the question of the pandemic.
Perfect.
And I think, when it comes to cost, you named it, Robert, but water is the one of the least expensive, most radical things that we can do to change our health. And so many people that are, say, buying the packaged goods or have less income are buying soda and other drinks of that nature, and not going for water. So I think that's a huge thing to think about. And also things like rice and oatmeal and beans and all of those grains and pseudo grains and legumes, are very inexpensive and can be, if you think about a box of cereal in which sugar is the second or third or fourth ingredient, it's shocking to look at what you think might be a healthy cereal to see sugar right there at the beginning of the ingredients. And, a box of cereal can be $5 or $6, but getting oatmeal and making it yourself is so much less expensive and so much better. So I think it's really important to remember that a lot of the packaged goods are actually more expensive, like what Elizabeth was talking about. And then secondly, is this whole idea of the pandemic and feeling like things are so out of control and changing, as Achina was saying. And one of the things that I found really remarkable is when we have our structured nutrition programs that people participate in, say for some of them are 10 days, some of them are 8 weeks, that people start to mentally feel so much better. And it's not just from the food and the water, it's also from the fact that they've taken an area that's actually under their control and then started to implement changes where every day they can look at those changes and see that they're doing something that's under their control. And my dog totally agrees. If you guys can hear him in the background, he reaches a point where he's like, that's enough, off the phone, off the computer. But the impact that has on our psyche is so profound. And I think when it comes to food, people actually don't have a lot of freedom with their food. And they think they do, but they don't, because we are often prisoner to that single malt bourbon or to the ice cream or to the chips. We think we're free because we get to eat. And, during the pandemic, we might say, like I've had people say, tea, I need my 4 glasses of wine during the pandemic, or I absolutely have to have my ice cream, that equals freedom. But it's actually not freedom. We are enslaved to those foods and those beverages. They pull us in with a compulsive nature that causes us to have to consume them. And, I have so much to say about the food industry and how much it has created foods and beverages and marketing campaigns that hold us hostage in the name of free choice, but we're actually hostage. So one of the best things that we can do during the pandemic, as opposite as that feels, is come back to getting freedom around our food and beverages, really getting our choice back by going back to much more whole foods that the body knows how to process. And that's what I'll be talking about on Saturday, is really how to get that freedom. And but just putting that seed of doubt in people's minds about whether they are actually being held captive to their foods and the impact that that's having psychologically and physically.
Yeah, that's going to be fascinating. I guarantee you. I guarantee that. So now, Dr. Irene, on to you finally. It's interesting seeing the mix that has been put together here for this conversation tomorrow, and I think it's just fantastic. And you know, I'm probably your biggest fan. So
my family might have something to say about that.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Aside from your family,
your family now, Bob. Your family now.
Aside from that, but I think it's fascinating how you fit into this particular circle. Why don't you talk about that a little bit?
I would love to. And I just want to address Johnny, speaking of more family. Johnny asked about whether we were going to address arthritis and joint inflammation.
Oh, you're getting ahead of me. I was going to ask that question after you finish.
Okay. I was just going to say, because the beautiful part about inflammation is that when you decrease inflammation in one part of your body, and that includes your brain, you automatically decrease it in others. And so Dr. Yarnell is going to do a phenomenal job of that tomorrow.
So yeah,
there are like many other states and countries, Dr. Yarnell, besides Colorado, just saying. Okay, so yeah, what I love about this is that we all have overlaps and yet we can speak so specifically to one aspect, and it really melts together beautifully. And so my way of addressing the brain, and the way I'm passionate about, is looking at the stress management, the resilience, recuperating from burnout or flame out syndrome, which is what I've coined the catastrophic version of burnout, and shifting from stress to success in all areas of life, because you truly can't have success in your career, in your wealth, if you don't have what does successful health and energy look like? What does successful relationships look like? What does a successful personal life? As I'm sitting here on a rooftop and the waves are crashing out there, and it was a beautiful sunset. In other words, that was my personal life vision. So that was, what I wanted to show, that I was successful in my personal life, was the ability to help as many people in the world as possible and still have the amazing life that I chose to as well. In other words, to be able to live and work anywhere in the world. So hence I'm here using my phone as a ring light so that you all can see me. So really, what does success mean? It's freedom. And Dr. T, I love how you used that word. It's freedom. And that truly is, when people say, I want to be successful, what they're really saying is, I want to be free. I want to be financially free. I want to be free to enjoy the career I want and have the fulfillment from it. I want to have the health and energy so that I can be free to do whatever I choose to do, whether it's hike El Camino or up to the base camp of Everest or do an Ironman, right? Or have the most amazing relationships possible. It all comes down to freedom. And I love
Irene,
how
don't forget free from pain.
Free from pain.
Right?
That's what I was thinking about. Having broken 10 bones, I'm totally right there with you. So when I talk about that, it's actually, there were a number of us, a few of us at that healthcare conference that agreed that within a couple of years, we're hiking to the base camp of Everest. And I take that very, very seriously. Yes, Dr. Etienne is there with me, right? And for me, it's saying, like, as I said, 10 broken bones. So I have to have the bang on nutrition. I have to have the bang on to make sure I'm totally detoxified. And this is why we need to walk the talk, all of us, because our mess is our message, right? There's a reason why we're all here having our ways that we specifically help people. And the beautiful part is that the people who come to the Brain Reboot 2022 tomorrow are going to get the most amazing, and I'm going to include myself in this company, although it's like a little scary to say this, world-class experts that I know all of these doctors are, and I'm so honored to be part of it, really, truly, and looking forward to providing concrete, actionable tips and tools for people to take away, and it's completely free. This was our gift to help as many people as possible. Really, like, let's reboot after the last 2 years,
Right.
let alone everything before that.
Yeah.
And just let's get started. Let's not worry about anymore. As Dr. Chena said, yes, it's a stressful time and people need certainty. And at the same time, let's create our own certainty within us.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Right.
what's really cool
About
here,
information.
yeah, we've only been on for about 30 minutes now, and you all have already given some great advice. And this is going to continuously play throughout the weekend too, even after you're retrain the brain boot, even after reboot, your reboot camp. Wait, brain reboot camp. Sorry. So what I want to do is Johnny Reddick, who's a very good friend of both Dr. Irene and I, she had this great question. I don't know if you can see it at the bottom here, but relative to inflammation, will you speak on arthritis and joint inflammation management besides medication, or simply dealing with it getting older? Which, as an MS sufferer, I understand, because inflammation is my enemy. So I try to stay as hydrated as possible, and I'm constantly rubbing and pushing and doing like that. So I think you guys all would have an answer to that. So why don't we start with Dr. Stein? What could you say to Joni about this?
Well, inflammation is in your body, and it affects your brain, because guess what? Your head is connected to your body. So, conventional medicine has always separated the head from the body. And, my goal is to explain to people that whatever's happening in your body is also happening in your brain. And when we address root causes, and I address in my talk tomorrow about the 5 pillars, and that those being food. So we've mentioned food quite a bit here.
Mm-hmm.
Infections, chronic infections. Dr. Yarnell has, talked a little bit about parasites and how you can have infections, chronic infections that really occupy the immune system, and it prevents the immune system from doing other things. So foods, infections, toxins. So we brought up toxins and stress. And all of those things affect your hormones, particularly your stress hormones, and that being cortisol. And so cortisol, when those levels of cortisol in your body are elevated for long periods of time, chronically, it actually steals from your other hormones and causes this shift all along. So believe it or not, those words, foods, infections, toxins, stress, and hormones, create the acronym SHIFT. So it'd be stress, hormones, infections, foods, and toxins. It's a great way to remember that. But it is shifting your mental. When you shift your mental health, you are automatically also shifting everything that is that has been caused by inflammation in your body as well. So it's a win-win situation. Everything gets better.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Dr. Barrett, what would you say to Johnny?
Well, I'm a neurologist, so the main area where I deal with inflammation in the brain is in the form of headaches. And in the past 5 to 10 years, there has been a discovery about how much inflammation in the brain is involved with migraines. We didn't know that before, but there's a new class of medications that all work on a substance called CGRP, which is involved in inflammation in the brain. And the last half a dozen medications are all variations of that. So I think that I would 100% agree with Achina that this really represents an evolution in our understanding of the fact that the brain actually lives in the body, which is, not the way conventional neurology has typically approached it. It's been a much more siloed thing. Like, your brain is over here. It doesn't matter what's going on in the rest of your body, but we are slowly evolving towards the perspective of understanding that it's all connected, and inflammation in the rest of your body affects the brain as well.
Yeah. It is amazing what our bodies and our minds do to us, right? And how all connected it really is. And that's something I've really learned through my relationship with Dr. Irene, and it's really helped me deal with a lot of different things. Dr. Yarnell, I mean, what would you say as well to Johnny?
I would say 100%.
Oh.
We're going to talk about
100%.
inflammation everywhere, including joints. What I find in my practice is that people, when they start to recognize the inflammatory triggers in their life and remove them, they really kind of deflate, and the inflammation goes out from everywhere in their body, whether they're carrying around excess weight, which of course excess weight is now considered to be excess inflammation in your body. So it all kind of comes together. People are able to put their rings back on, their fingers don't hurt when they move them. There's all kinds of things that are due to inflammation, and as Dr. Barrett and Dr. Stein were just saying, everything is connected. And so if we move the inflammation from one place, it'll go from everywhere. Now, where I really focus on inflammation is, of course, with MS. And so we have inflammation around the nerves in our head and in our spinal cord that are causing problems and disrupting the synapses and the functioning of our bodies, but also brain fog, fatigue, all of these things, and emotions too, shortness of temper and depression and anxiety. They're all connected to these triggers of inflammation. And that's what I focus on. That's where I'm going to be talking about tomorrow and what I do in my clinic.
Okay, very cool. Very cool. See, all this useful information just in this short amount of time. You guys are amazing. So Dr. Cadron, what would you say to Johnny as well? From a wellness perspective.
Yeah, I think one of the most amazing things is how specific foods can be triggers for joint pain. And this can be a very tricky one to figure out. There are some usual suspects. Gluten and cow dairy are some usual suspects that sometimes if you remove those, you notice a shift. Also, the adding water. It is amazing how much being dehydrated causes all kinds of problems. And one thing we don't realize is our food often doesn't have a lot of water in it. Plant foods are the ones that are rich in water, but if we're eating bread and a lot of animal products, et cetera, those don't have water in them. So, often we're not getting enough water. But what I think is amazing is at a certain point in our program, we do an elimination diet, which means we start by removing some of the most potentially inflammatory foods and beverages. And at a certain point, maybe it could even be 3 or 4 days in, people will realize, oh my gosh, like my shoulder was really bothering me and all of a sudden I don't feel it. Or wow, like I just woke up and my knee, I can actually like walk on my knee again. It's not causing me to hurt. It's that moment. Often we get out of bed where we're like, ooh, 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 and it takes like a minute for some of us to stand up and you realize you don't have that stiffness. And this is all related to shifts in food. And at the end of our program, we have a period called Experimentation and Integration. And we recommend that people try bringing back some of the foods and beverages that they might have missed or that they really love at some level, but that bring them back slowly, one at a time, maybe one every 3 to 4 days. And what's incredible is how a single food can be a trigger for your joint pain. And it is mind-blowing to realize that because, you wouldn't think that. But one of the reasons people have so much trouble discovering it, I love the analogy that a lot of us are sitting on, say, 6 tacks. We sit and our butt hurts because they're those 6 tacks. So what a lot of people do is just pull out one. So then they're like, well, it still hurts when I sit down. So one of the challenges to finding those inflammatory foods is being able to clear the slate well enough that it goes away so that then you can see what could be causing it when you bring them back. So I remember myself, just a quick story. I was in a seminar, this was many years ago, but I was in a seminar and that whole weekend I had been not very well prepared, kind of eating what was in the room and not quite drinking the right things, et cetera. And all of a sudden I was writing and my hand hurt. And we have arthritis in our family. And I was like, oh my gosh, and I'm too young for this. And really, I'm not, but that was my thought. And I immediately went back to my foundations, went to the grocery store, filled up my hotel room, started drinking my greens, all kinds of stuff. And literally by the next day, it was gone. And I thought, oh my gosh. And it was just such a reminder to me of how sensitive my own body is, and how much, if I weren't aware of that, I might have just thought that was the onset of arthritis. That's it. All the women in my family get it in their hands, and that's the beginning of mine.
Okay, see, that's it, and that's good actionable stuff, right? I mean, everybody can sort of do a clear like that and slowly bring things back in to see what's impacting them or not, right? So, I mean, that is really good actionable advice. Thank you. Okay, so Dr. Irene, you got a lot to follow up on here. I mean, geez, what are you gonna tell Johnny?
Johnny, come tomorrow. Tell everyone to register and sign up, because if you liked the last 3/4 of an hour, you're going to be blown away for the 3 hours that we are on tomorrow. And it's, this is our gift to you all. And because we love you all, and we really just want to set everyone up for success in 2022. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, very good. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. I mean, this has been beyond traditionally what I usually do on LinkedIn. This big of a panel, number one. And number two, LinkedIn tends to be more of a business focus, but it's starting to shift a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. So that we're having these important conversations, and trust me, this is an important conversation that needs to be had with a lot of people out there. Especially now we're all shut in, right? We don't eat well. We're bickering with our family members because we're stuck with them for far too long, right? We have governmental bodies throughout this country that are opening and closing and opening and closing. So these are all important topics, and I think you ladies here are going to be lifesavers for a lot of people out there that attend this Brain Reboot 2022 event tomorrow. So to everybody out there, and my Facebook followers, YouTube subscribers, and to my LinkedIn followers, highly recommend getting onto this seminar tomorrow. If you don't have the time, make it, log in, start recording it at the very least, and then come back to it, right? Because this is going to be life-saving information, I think, for a lot of people. I'm definitely looking forward to it. Even if you just pop in for a few minutes just to get a taste of what's going on, so that you can maybe connect with these guys individually. Because one thing I always say is it takes one connection to change a life. And I think all of you guys are that connection that's going to change so many lives. And it's been such an honor to have you on the show. I truly appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yes, Bob. Thank you, Bob. You did a great job. You did a great job with handling this many people on your panel too.
Thanks. Well, it's you know what, when you have such great information to give, and you give it so freely, right? It's super easy. It's just a matter of turning you guys all loose. So good luck tomorrow, right? Good luck if any Colorado authorities are listening. I'm the one who's calling her a doctor, okay? No troubles.
Thank you.
All right, guys. You have yourselves a wonderful day, and hang on a second as we bow out of the broadcast.